So our next speaker is Tieng, if I'm correct in pronunciation, and he's from University of Toronto. Okay, he's from University of Toronto, and he will speak about diffusion geometry and how this can be used for the extraction of the fetal heart rate or fetal ECG from maternal abdomen. So he's able to extract it from the single lead, and it will be quite interesting to see the results and the approach.
Okay, so I can start, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. First, thank you very much for inviting me here to give a talk. As you can see, I am in mathematics and in statistical science, so somehow a bit far away from the society. So I'm new here, and anyway, thank you. But maybe I'm not that far away because I also have a medical degree. Before I came to mathematics, I practiced for years, but anyway, I quit it and I didn't finish my training as a residency, so somehow, anyway, something in between. Okay, so today I want to discuss how to extract fetal ECG from maternal abdominal ECG from some ideas called diffusion geometry. And I promise that I will finish on time, quickly. You won't get bored, hopefully. And only one slide will have equation. Only one slide. Okay, now let's start. The first slide is about this single channel fetal ECG decomposition problem. And in this society, I think I don't need to say too much. So this is how you get a signal. You put this on maternal abdomen. Okay, and this is the signal you get. And I know there are some Monica person here, so thanks for providing this beautiful image online. And this is the direct contact ECG signal you can record. So you can see that we do have quite a lot of information from the abdominal maternal ECG signal. Now the question is just, now I give you a maternal abdominal ECG, how can you get this signal out? How to do it? Okay, so I will start from the algorithm so that you won't see it again. Okay, so the algorithm is quite simple. There's only 3 or 4 stages. The first one is everyone know, you get ECG signal, you do some pre-processing, remove the baseline, the noise, do whatever you want, okay? And here, we just do some kind of bandpass filter to remove the power line and do some detraining. That's it. The second step is you want to determine some kind of landmarks. For example, for the ECG signal, what is the common landmark? R peaks. Very good. So from this ECG signal, we find a way to determine the R peaks. In particular, the maternal R peaks. Okay, there will be several challenges you will see later. For example, how can you be so sure that the R peaks are maternals or are they fetal R peaks, and so on and so forth. Fine. We find a way to determine those R peaks. The third step is we will recover the component. We get to the maternal ECG by running this non-local Euclidean median, which I will introduce later, or diffusion geometry. And that is the result on the right-hand side. You do the decomposition, you get this maternal ECG and the fetal ECG. Now you can do it, you can iterate this. You can iterate this, okay? And you get fetal ECG in the end. Once you have the fetal ECG, do whatever you want. Do R peak detections, get R interval period. You can find features. If you don't like the ECG R peaks, you can reduce the sampling rate to get CTG information and run whatever algorithm you like to classify, to predict some clinical outcomes. That is not what I will discuss here. Today I will focus on these 2 parts, just one algorithm, so that I won't get distracted. Fine. So, before going to some more details, I want to show you the result. This is the result from the single channel maternal abdominal ECG. So the first one is the maternal abdominal ECG, which you see is quite complicated, a lot of wandering, but you can see some small peaks and so on and so forth. And after I run the algorithm, I get a fetal ECG like the red line. And if you compare with the directly contact fetal ECG, you see the R peaks somehow are kind of catched. Okay, and this is kind of the result. Now I want to explain to you how I achieved it. Okay, so to achieve it, this slide, please bear with me, just 2 minutes, 1 minute maybe, to describe what's going on here, which I will use a modern kind of mathematical term called manifold, or whatever you like. I mean, don't be intimidated, that's really nothing but kind of nonlinear object, model, and some diffusion geometry, and to describe an algorithm called non-local Euclidean medium. Okay, so this is a maternal abdominal fetal ECG signal. You see there's a maternal peaks, and there are some small spikes. Those are fetal ECGs. Okay, so let's assume that we have ability to remove it. That is, we only have maternal ECG. So now what can you see from here? Like, we are all familiar with the ECG signal. For the ECG signal, what is the main feature? The main feature is it's kind of oscillatory, right? Some kind of bit repeat itself from time to time. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And good news about this repeat is, from bit to bit, somehow they look very similar. They look similar, although they are different. We know that the R interval, QT interval will change. We have some kind of linear relationship, so they are not quite the same. And we know that respiration will change the amplitude, so on and so forth. So all of them, they look similar, but they are different. The good news is, because of some kind of physiological homeostasis assumption, which we all agree, like we will not go astray, right? Our heartbeat won't beat in this way and another way, just totally irregular. No, it's not. Okay, although we sometimes may have arrhythmia, but this is not what we discuss here. So somehow under this physiological homeostasis assumption, we can assume that all the bits, although they are different, but somehow they can be well quantified or well captured by some low-dimensional structure. Low-dimensional structure. For you who are familiar with principal component analysis is a linear version of such a model. Okay, and what we are doing here is considering some kind of low-dimensional structure, but which can be nonlinear. And we call it a base manifold. And how does it look like? If you collect all those bits, then you will see that those bits all look similar, but they have some slightly differences. For example, the QT interval there are wider, and the S interval is deeper, and so on and so forth. And you can see that the bits on the left-hand side of the so-called manifold will be similar, but on the right-hand side they are different. So it can somehow have this kind of reorganization or parametrization of all bits. However, you may ask, hey, this is not really what we have, right? We do not have maternal ECG. The thing we have is maternal abdominal ECG. That is something contaminated by a fetal ECG. Okay, then how do we model it? Imagine that you have one bit, which is maternal ECG, and those bits are the maternal ECG plus fetal ECG. So somehow you have some kind of fiber structure, which you may not know what it is. You don't need to worry about it. You just need to know that there will be some kind of low-dimensional structure, low-dimensional structure describing how your heartbeats look like. Okay, so the magic here is, under this assumption, suppose we are able to find or to classify all the bits, so that all the classified bits have the same maternal ECG. Then we can apply median filter, just apply median, and get the fetal ECG back. Get the maternal ECG back. And this is called non-local Euclidean median. Okay, the idea is very simple. Let me summarize. What you do is you collect all maternal bits from the maternal abdominal ECG signal, and you try to cluster them. And after you do the clustering, you run some kind of filtering. For example, here I run median filter. And there are some technical details which you have to be careful. For example, how to apply the weighting, how to determine the neighbors in particular. And this is where the so-called differential geometry comes from, because to determine the neighbors, we have to apply something called diffusion distance. Diffusion distance. What is it? What is it? I won't discuss it here because it may take me 30 minutes to describe the detail. But just keep in mind here, right now I have a low dimensional structure and I run some kind of diffusion process on it. And after running this diffusion process, I can determine the neighbors. And after determining the neighbors, those neighbors will share the same maternal ECG. And I can run median and get maternal ECG. Do the subtraction, get fetal ECG. Okay, so there are several papers with theoretical justification of why it works. Some are based on my work. Some are based on others' work. Okay, so here is the result. Let's take a look. So top one, this is the abdominal maternal ECG. Okay, and the middle one is after I apply this non-local Euclidean median, I remove the maternal ECG. So this is what I get, and if you do a comparison, you see they just match. Okay, and this is the final result, the final fetal ECG. Oh, I don't know why this, just the red one, the red circle are the final detected R peaks. The black one, the black circle, crosses, they are the fetal R peaks determined from the direct contact ECG signal. So you can see that they fit quite well. So for this signal, people may say, this is very simple, right? Just from one channel, you can apply many different algorithms and get this result. That's true. This is not very challenging. But anyway, let's take a look. You can see this is, I just superimpose everything for you to see. Here is a more challenging example. Also, again, single channel. So for this signal, recorded from maternal abdomen, you can see it's quite noisy. I hope you agree with me. This is quite challenging. And this is the signal after you remove the maternal ECG component. You see it's kind of, well, not very simple to even identify by your eyeballs where it is, what it contains. And this is the result after you do the reconstruction. And if you superimpose on it, you see you can recover something which even cannot be seen by physicians' eyeballs. Then you will say, well, maybe this is artifact. How can you be so sure this is correct? Okay, we have some ground truth. Again, luckily, this is the R peaks detected from this final fetal ECG. And those circles are the R peaks recorded from direct contact fetal ECG. So you see, for some pieces, the accuracy is not very high, but for some others, it's quite good. But here you see the data is really too noisy. I cannot do too much. But at least you can see quite a lot of information out of it already. Okay, so now the second part of the talk, I'm almost done, is how to determine the R peaks. As I mentioned, we need one way, some way to determine the landmarks, right? But how to do it? This is again, the maternal abdominal ECG. You will say, I will just apply the ordinary R peak detection algorithm. That's kind of simple, right? You just run some bandpass filter, square it, and find maximal. Well, fine, you do it. Perfect. Easy. Not a question for this kind of signal. How about this kind of signal? When the fetal ECG is of the same height as the maternal ECG, then this becomes challenging, right? It's not easy to determine which one is maternal, which one is fetus. And how about this guy? Super noisy. Then can you really apply this traditional R peak detection algorithm? Well, you can, but I would say it's a bit challenging. I won't say it's impossible, but I just say it's more challenging, and that is why we come to the second part of the algorithm. So, to describe the second part of the algorithm, just a very quick description of the algorithm about the model. So for this abdominal fetal ECG, what do you have? First, you have this nonlinear trend. So maternal abdominal ECG could be viewed as a trend, and you sum with the maternal ECG, and you sum with the fetal ECG, right? And you get some kind of crazy noise. Well, sounds good, right? Just very intuitive, nothing difficult, no differential equation, nothing. However, there is really a challenge in here. What is the challenge? Look, for the ECG signal, we have heart rate variability. So the oscillation has a time varying frequency The amplitude can change according to different external environmental influence and so on. So amplitude changes according to time. The oscillation is not sinusoidal, so Fourier transform may have trouble. Okay, the trend is nonlinear. Well, it's crazy somehow. The stationary noise, as noise is most of the time non-stationary. So I give you this kind of signal. What can you do to deal with this arctic detection mission? Fine. Our solution is called D-shape short-time Fourier transform. D-shape short-time Fourier transform, which can be viewed as a variation of the time frequency analysis. And in the next slide, I will quickly introduce what D-shape short-time Fourier transform is, and which may take 2-3 minutes. So please bear with me. There will be the only one slide that has equation. Okay, I'm sorry for it, but hope it won't bore you. So the algorithm is the following. So I give you this example, this signal. This is the original signal, stimulated one, which has a frequency 2 Hertz, constantly frequency 2 Hertz. That is, you have 2 oscillations per second. But the oscillation is not sinusoidal. It's like a square signal. The amplitude changes, but frequency is constant. So this kind of signal is non-stationary. And what is the first idea which may come to you when you analyze a non-stationary time series? You may say, how about short-time Fourier transform? Everyone likes short Fourier transform, but Fourier transform is global, right? So let's say short-time Fourier transform. We apply a window, we truncate the signal, we get a small pieces, and we run Fourier transform, get some kind of spectral information. Very simple. That is the result you get. So you get 2 Hertz, the fundamental frequency, and its multiples, which comes from the non-sinusoidal oscillation. Very good. That is what we have. Then what can we do after getting the short-time Fourier transform? If you do some observation and think about it, this you need some signal processing background. But if you do have it and you think about it, you will see that, hey, in the frequency domain, if you fix a time, you see that there's another oscillation, right? There's another oscillation. Fundamental frequency, double the fundamental frequency, triple the fundamental frequency. So you see some kind of oscillation again in the frequency domain. So what can you do? Fourier transform again, why not? Take absolute value, natural log, Fourier transform. And what is it? This is for people from electrical engineering, that is trivial. Capstone, nothing. Capstone. And what is capstone? It's nothing but you reverse the SPEC, the consonant and reverse it, and you get capstone, and frequency becomes frequency. Whatever it is was invented in 1963, not invented by me. So you just apply Fourier transform kind of twice, and you get this frequency idea. And what do you see in the frequency? It's another frequency. What is the frequency of the frequency? That is the period. So if you think from the basic signal processing idea, the frequency of the frequency is just period. So you get fundamental period and these multiples. And there will be some kind of small details about natural log, which I just showed a picture. For you who knows what's going on, you know what it is. If you don't know, don't worry, I will skip it. Then, what do we want? Remember, we want fundamental frequency, right? We want to count the number, count the oscillation. That's what we want. And this is what? This is fundamental frequency. And what is the common thing in between this period and the frequency? Remember, period is the inverse of frequency. Period is the inverse of the frequency. So what you do is you just inverse the frequency interval, frequency axis. You just inverse the frequency axis, and you get frequency axis back. And you get fundamental frequency and its division. And you see that in this inverse capstone and the short-time Fourier transform, what's in common? The fundamental frequency. So you multiply them together, you get fundamental frequency. So you can view it as a nonlinear filtering technique for short-time Fourier transform. It's just a nonlinear, kind of small nonlinear technique to handle this kind of signal. This natural log can be implemented without too much trouble. Just use soft log and so on. Details I will not go into. Now, the boring part has been finished. Let's come to interesting part, some simulation. Now I give you 3 components, 1, 2, 3, and you see that they are all oscillatory, but they have different shapes, right? They are non-sinusoidal. None of them is sinusoidal. And I sum them together and I give you a signal. I say, no matter who you are, if you have interest in signal processing, please get some information out of this guy. Please, what can you do? However, life is never easy. Nature is evil somehow. You always have noise. Okay, and I add some noise, and this noise is ARMA 11 with innovation T3. So you can imagine this is fetal, crazy noise. And this is the signal I give you. Please do something. Okay, short-time Fourier transform, always the first choice. And you see, wow, quite a lot of ends, quite a lot of information. Ignore these 3 arrows. But anyway, you just see quite a lot of information. It's almost impossible to do the interpretation, isn't it? At least I don't know how to do it. Now if I run what I suggested, the shape short-time Fourier transform, yeah, you get 3 components immediately. Now I can further apply something called short-time Fourier synchro squeezing, which is a kind of nonlinear manipulation of the short-time Fourier transform. You take the phase into account, which I will not discuss here. Then you get these 3 concentrated lines, and I have the ground truth. And I superimpose the ground truth on top of it, which tells you that we are able to get the instantaneous frequency of all components, even under such crazy situation. Now you may say, hey, this is just the simulation, right? Simulation is not real. It's maybe just, you're just lucky. Okay, good. I know it's possible, right? So I'll show you something. But before that, we have theoretical analysis based on Erdős-Thurn inequality, and we can show that it is robust noise, so on and so forth, under different situations, and it was published in Journal of Fourier Analysis and Application this year. Okay, so single-lead maternal ECG signal. This is the maternal abdominal ECG. As promised, if you take a look at short-time Fourier transform, I mean, it's almost impossible to tell too much, right? You get a lot of quantities, and the major component is concentrated at 8 Hertz. What is 8 Hertz? It's almost impossible to quantify, right? But if you run the shape, you get 2 components only. All the other high frequency components are gone. And if you superimpose the ground truth, we have direct contact fetal ECG. You see, it's kind of almost extracted. Okay, so anyway, this kind of combination, I don't report the table or do this kind of comparison because I found it a bit boring. So I just tell you that, but anyway, in the paper, you have always to do some comparison, right? Otherwise, the reviewer won't let you go. So we did some comparison and with some other papers, and right now our result is kind of quite good, the best to public available databases, which you can go. However, there is some kind of limitation. I think I still have some minutes, right? 3 minutes? No? How much time do I have?
You don't, but it's okay.
It's okay, okay. So 3 more minutes, 3 more minutes. I won't bore you too much. Yes. I don't want, and also I don't want to bore you too much for details. So this is a, yeah, 1 lit. You will say, hey, 1 lit. It's just lucky, right? You can get something. But 1 lit, you know, sometimes it's almost impossible. Yes, it is sometimes really impossible. For example, in this case, if you do single channel maternal ECG, sorry, there's really no fetal ECG information, just 0. You don't get anything. You do not get anything. Then how can you fix it? You cannot fix it. Come on, you don't have information. What do you expect? No way. So for this kind of signal, sorry, we cannot do anything. However, if you think, why not? You will see that this is maternal's heart, this is fetal's heart. I'm sorry about my drawing. You can see that the ECG signal somehow can be quantified by vector cardiogram, which is which is a three-dimensional trajectory quantifying the current potential, right? And if you have only one direction, maybe this direction is perpendicular to the cardiac axis, so that you don't get anything. However, if you can now have second channel, then you can expand a plane. And the chance that the cardiac axis is totally perpendicular to this plane is much smaller. So if now I allow you two leads, just put two leads, two channels, then I can guarantee you that the accuracy can be improved and we can get much more. And this is what I want to show you here. For the same signal, I just take two channels, okay, and I do subtraction. I don't do anything. I just take two channels and I do linear combination. And this linear combination is related to saying that, hey, I have two channels and I just find some linear combinations. We just imagine that we can project the cardiac axis to some specific axis which we pre-designed. And this is the result. You can see that the final maternal ECG, okay, and the final fetal ECG. You can even see some kind of morphology out of it. And this is the time frequency representation result. Quite dominant, huh? And what? Oh, and yeah, here you can see that the red one is the predicted R peak. The blue one are the provided R peaks from a direct contact fetal ECG. So here is the algorithm, the summary. So what you do is you have several different kind of linear combinations, and from all these linear combinations, for some linear combination, you can see some clear fetal ECG. For some others, you just cannot see anything. Now you apply the lag map plus diffusion map, which I skipped the detail here because again it will take me another half hour to describe details. Then you can define some kind of signal to quality, signal quality index, and you select the channel, the combination with the best signal quality index, and then you run the final result. Okay, and there are some relevant references. Most of them are with Martin, and the theoretical works. Well, most of them are with mathematicians, statisticians. And the summary is whatever it is. This is my lab called MISTA actually, and nonlinear time frequency analysis and diffusion geometry are potential in several different applications, but here is for fetal ECG. We don't discuss unsupervised learning or hard reliability issue today, but well, that's another work. Clinical trials to validate, Martin has mentioned it, and we have patent filed, Martin also mentioned it, and thank you for your attention.
Okay, so let's discuss.
Okay. Is your technique like can tell you work in real time, correct? And what the time delay to produce fetal output?
Excuse me, say it again?
Does your technique work in real time?
Yes, it can be run in real time.
And what is the delay in terms of producing fetal output?
It depends on the window you choose. So for example, if the window I choose is about 5 seconds, then the delay will be 2.5 seconds. And for clinical application, right now what I choose, in the end of the day is 500, so it's about, yes, this is 5 seconds. So the delay is 2.5 seconds.
Okay. And when you run it on your test database, that 2.5 second delay is typically what gives you the best success rate, or do you need some time to have a longer delay?
Excuse me, sorry.
So you say, well, 5 seconds, and so it will lead to 2.5 second delay. Does that allow you to extract any kind of SNR, bad SNR, good SNR?
Or in the
sometimes need a longer window?
Yes, in current work, everything I report here, we do not take the signal to noise ratio into account, but this can be done. And if the signal is noisier, then we have to take a longer signal as you predict, as you mentioned, but the result will be worse, slightly worse. Because in the end of the day, what we do, this kind of short time Fourier transform-based approach, you always count on the window to do some kind of smoothing. It just depends on where the smooth comes from. But you always have the smoothing step. So if you take a longer window, you can compensate with the noise, but you will lose the accuracy. And here, what we do, I should report the number, which I didn't. The overall median absolute error is about 87 milliseconds. So it's roughly equivalent to 100% in rate of fetal ECG, which is not perfect enough. We are still trying to improve it, but I think it's kind of state of the art right now. And the F1 in the CNC 2016 13 database, F1 is roughly 87%. If you consider all 75 cases, if you consider only the good cases, you remove some cases people always removed. Accuracy can go up to 89.9%. I remember, right? I don't remember the exact number, but roughly this kind of thing. Okay. Very.
Does the relative frequency of the maternal heart rate influence the accuracy of the detection?
Right now, no. But in the first paper, we consider the following scenario: how about if the patient, how about if the mother has VPC, or how about the fetus have VPC, and how accurate we can recover the signal? Yeah, and the answer is yes, it will impact the final result, but it's not very sensitive to it. The only thing that we cannot handle right now very efficiently is when there is a very huge uterine contraction artifact. When there is such a huge uterine contraction artifact, we do need help. One channel really cannot do too much. I cannot handle that kind of noise. That's too crazy. Yeah, but if I can have one other channel which focus on contraction information, then a depth filter can help, and I think I can handle it. But I just don't have this kind of database. Yeah, you see the databases I have now is 2, and the others are from Martin. Limited. Yeah.
Okay.
Could you please come back a few slides?
Sure.
The one that we shows the single, before. No, that was the single is the.
Oh, this one?
Penetrating the before.
Before?
Yes, the other one, next one.
Yep.
Yes, that one is good. Before.
Sorry. Okay. This one?
That one, yeah.
Okay, good.
You have got the short time Fourier transform of
Yes.
the signal. You have both components here.
Yes.
By confusing the representation, but then you apply your brilliant algorithm. I'm quite impressed with your algorithm, but I think you have to apply. I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, you're saying something very wrong, but you have to somehow threshold to get to the plot on the right. You have to threshold the data. You have to apply a threshold so you can clean all the unwanted components to get a cleaner representation on the right. Is that okay?
So how do you get from left
You
to right?
have a cleaner representation on the right and you have a dirty.
Oh, okay, so your question is how do I get this one from that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Threshold the data, the
At
representation.
each time, I apply this capstone technique. And after I apply the
I
capstone,
understood about the capstone technique.
yes, and you inverse it and you do multiplication.
But
And you
then
get this.
to get these, you get this just like that. You don't apply a threshold.
Threshold.
Threshold? No, I don't apply any threshold at all. Zero threshold. There's no threshold. There's no. Everything is
Okay.
Yeah,
So we need to figure out after the presentation. I
Okay.
have some question as well. But
Okay.
After the.
Yeah.
No. Please
This is
end this
yeah.
and we will discuss later.
Okay,
After
sure.
that.
Okay.
It's
After
because
this.
we
So
got
thank you very much for that.
from
Yeah.
Android.